Hello, Raptors Nation. Sean Davis here for the Raptors Nation, your home for everything Raptors. The Raptors are back to 500. I don't have the schedule from me, but I don't even remember the last time we've been able to say that, Luca. It's been a minute for sure. The Raptors get a massive win over the Miami Heat. No Jimmy Butler, but nonetheless a huge win to keep pace in a really weird play-in race in the Eastern Conference where 6 through 9 all feels like it can go up in flames at any time. Luca Rosano joining me as always. Luca, how you doing, man? And the Raptors finally back to 500.
Yeah, I was just scrolling on my phone to look at it. I have it here. So, the last time the Raptors were 500 prior to tonight, December 9th, they were 13 and
Wow.
13 at that time. So it took 109 days and 6 opportunities. This is via Josh Lewinberg on Twitter for the Raptors to hit 500. So that is absolutely insane, Sean. I mean, I'm just happy this team is back to 500. I'm not even gonna, overstate it, overlook it. I mean, that is just huge. Like, given the rocky season that this has been, I mean, fans of this team have been in hell since December. Just experiencing this roller coaster of a season where the Raptors would win a couple, lose a couple, be a couple under 500, and like every time it looked like okay, they're finally gonna crack that 500 mark, they will lose one or two in a row, and finally they get it done, and they do it by beating a Miami Heat team that you can never you can never count out the Heat. I know the Heat aren't the same scary Heat team that they once were, and they didn't have Jimmy Butler in this one. But that's still a veteran team. That's a team that's very well coached, and that's a team that knows how to win big games. And I thought this was one of the better Raptors wins this season. And the Raptors, they not only won, they pretty much controlled this game, and took care of business when they needed to in the fourth quarter. So I know we'll get into it more, but yeah, just my initial reaction is we're back to 500, and the Raptors are building some momentum now.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing because I don't think you're building for this year. So in terms like when we talk about momentum or whatever, I don't think the momentum's not doing anything this year. I think when you use the word momentum, you're like trying to convince not only your front office but your fan base that heading into next year you can run back, not the whole team. I think in some capacity something has to change, but you can run back a similar molded team, but with some tweaks thrown in. So like now you can say, okay, maybe we'll look into bringing back a Pascal and a Gary Trent. Brad, still we're gonna send you on your way. Love you, appreciate you for contributing to a championship and all that good stuff, and helping us stay relevant post Kawhi Leonard. But we're gonna move elsewhere. I still think something has to change, but from a you use the word momentum, the Raptors are finally building that momentum. And we were talking off camera about this, Luca. Like, it just sucks that the Raptors are hitting it when it probably is gonna mean nothing, little to nothing. Like, it helps them basically unofficially clinch a play-in spot, but at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, them getting on a pretty nice run, actually, all things considered, it really doesn't mean much because of when they're doing it and how rocky the first 50 games were. So that sucks for sure.
No, I understand that point, and we're talking about that off air, where it's like, where was this before, right? The Raptors stringing together these wins. They've won, I think it's something like 9 of their last 10 home games. They're, getting it together. 6-4 in their last 10. They've won 3 in a row, which I don't think we mentioned at this point. The Raptors have won 3 straight basketball games, which is just insane, considering how the season has gone. And yeah, I know you want to look at big picture things and all that. But yeah, for this one, I'm just going to kind of savor it that this team actually got back to where they needed to be. And I know, unfortunately, it might be a case of too little too late just because of teams ahead of them and teams needing to lose and the Raptors needing to win these final 6 games. We'll get into that a little bit later on for them to realistically make a push in the playoffs. But I think at this point, Raptors are just trying to play this out the best that they can. They're just going out there, winning these games, playing good basketball, and that's what us, the fans, want to see. So, in a game like this specifically, you look at a guy like Scottie Barnes and, you just marvel towards his excellence and you start to get excited about how good he can continue to be. And you start to get excited about, wow, like this is what happens when Scottie Barnes has the ball in his hands and how is he going to look with this team next season and how is he going to continue to develop? Because I mean, like, that's the main takeaway in this one for me. Scottie Barnes was just lights out. You talk about the points, the assists. I don't think he had a turnover in this one, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Scottie Barnes was just all over this basketball game. 7 rebounds. He almost had a triple double. He had a highlight reel dunk over a couple of Heat players. This is Scottie's team. And we're not seeing it now because obviously there's guys like Van Vliet on this team, still Siakam. But in due time, I firmly believe that this is going to be Scottie Barnes' team in a couple years. And we're just going to continue to see his growth. And those wings are going to continue to flap. And we see all the good things that happen with Scottie Barnes. So it was great to see him play well. And you know what? Seeing him playing well along with OG and Pascal Siakam, like it's been such an up and down season where you would be lucky if like one or two of those players at most had a good game. To get all three of those guys having a good game together, we finally saw that in this one.
And they were all like kind of like different stretches of the game too. Like Scottie, I think had like 14 in the first quarter or something along the lines. Might have been 12 in the first quarter, right? And then slowly, like OG sprinkles in like 7 around halftime. Then he gets going in the third and hits a couple threes in the fourth. And Pascal was kind of just mostly for the most of the game the steady second option. But I want to wrap up my point really quickly about how well the Raptors have been playing, and I'm going to add on to your point about Scottie Barnes. The Raptors in the month of March, they played 14 games so far. They played one more Friday night against the Sixers. Even though their record in the month of March is 7-7, so you're like, hey, Sean, Luca, what are you guys talking about? They're 7-7. That's 500, and they had to win 3 straight to get to that against the Pistons, who are really bad, the Wizards, who I don't think had Bradley Beal, and then the Heat without Jimmy Butler. This team throughout the month of March, I think Luca would agree with me when I say this, they are a way better team than 7-7 over the month of March. Like you look at the Nuggets game, the first one in Denver, which they should have won, the Clippers game, which honestly they could have been, maybe even should have won that game too. You're a fourth quarter choke job away from beating the Lakers. That's 3 wins, right? And obviously you're not going to win every game. There's going to be reasons for every game. You're as Luca called it after the Bucks game, you're a Pascal Siakam fourth quarter choke job away from beating the Bucks. Like that's 4 wins all against quality teams, if not the best team in basketball, and maybe the third best team in basketball in the Nuggets. Like that's 4 wins that should be on your record if you took care of business, or if in the Nuggets game case you don't get the worst technical foul or just ejection I've seen ever. So like that's the thing, man. This Raptors team is playing well. They're playing together again, and they're starting to win games. And like you said, Luca, with Scottie Barnes, I put it on the screen here. Scottie Barnes, like breakout, like he had the sophomore slump at the start, but the most impressive thing is just like seeing him mid-season and the Raptors as a team mid-season kind of figure it out and say, okay, here's what we have to do. And Scottie's been excellent, really, over the past month, maybe even month and a half or so. He's been brilliant. And like you said, OG, who we've been more so me kind of critical of in the past, him just being consistently really good finally in terms of his scoring production. So that's definitely great to see as well.
Yeah, I think those are some great points brought up, and they have definitely been playing a lot better. You take the full scope of the March games, and yeah, you could have easily made a case in some of those games that the Raptors could have very well won those games. So yeah, I mean, at this point, given everything that's gone on, Raptors are 38-38. Dead stuck at 500. They got 6 games left. But before we get too excited, I will say this: if the Raptors want to show people that they were right in terms of buying and all that and going for it this season, they're going to have now their truest test, in my opinion, coming up because they got 6 games left. 5 of those 6 are going to be on the road, a place where the Raptors have not fared well this season, 12-24 on the road. I mean, every NBA team, it seems, this season has struggled on the road. I guess it's
Very weird NBA season.
just
Very,
very,
very
very weird. Yeah, it seems like every team stinks on the road, but the Raptors are just 12-24 on the road, 26-14 at home. So they're night and day, right? So they got 6 games left. That's stuck at 500. You got 5 games on the road, 2 of which are against the Hornets, games that you should win. But then again, the Hornets just beat the Mavs in a back-to-back situation. So
and
I'm
the
not even
Thunder.
going to guarantee those wins. And then the lone home game is against the Bucks, which is a very tough lone home game, because at that point you would think the Bucks are going to still have the number 1 seed to clinch, unless the Boston Celtics continue to falter. They did lose tonight, so that could help the Raptors, because right now I'm looking at it, the Celtics are now 2.5 games behind the Bucks. So maybe the Raptors get lucky in that final game and the Bucks rest some guys. That could be the case. But regardless, the Raptors are going to have a very tough 6-game stretch, all things considered, with the whole road element, to not only be above 500, but to try to potentially move up, because as we know, the play-in, you want to be a 7th or 8th seed, because that means you're just going to win 1 game to get into the playoffs. Ideally, you'd like to be 7, so then you host that playoff game. The Raptors stay where they are now. The Hawks did win as well, so the Raptors, despite the win, are still stuck at 9th. The Raptors stay 9th or even fall to 10th. You now got to win 2 play-in games, and you got to now win a road play-in game to get into the playoffs. So I guess now we can get into, if you want, everybody else's schedule, but the whole thing that could be frustrating is the Raptors could be getting now hot at the right time, but because they decided to do this later on in the season, it might be too little too late, because some of the other teams might still win. And if the Raptors do end up taking care of their business, they don't control their own destiny anymore. These other teams would need to fall off as well. And if they don't fall off as well, the Raptors would remain 9th or even fall back to 10th, because those Chicago Bulls are right around the corner. They're only 1.5 games back of the Raptors. So the next 6 are going to tell a lot. I think there's still going to be a lot more shuffling to be done in this play-in picture. The Raptors still have an outside chance at 6th. I do want to throw that out there. Looking at the standings,
very outside. Very much outside.
but it's still technically mathematically alive. But in all likelihood, it'll be 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th for the Raptors.
Yeah, so really, really quickly, I'm also partially stalling because I'm trying to add the schedules for every team in the ticker. But Luca, what team would you not want to play? Which play-in possibility scares you the most for the Raptors?
Pretty sure, I mentioned this off air. So what I see being a worst case scenario. Okay, worst case scenario is obviously Raptors finish 10th, right? Because now you got to win 2 road play-in games to get into the playoffs. And the Raptors stink on the road this season. So I don't see that at all. The Raptors finish 10th. They're basically toast unless they somehow pull off a miracle. If they finish 9th, that is still okay, because at least you still got to win 2 play-in games, which is the tough part, but at least one of them would be at home. And then you would potentially get Hawks, Heat, or Nets, depending on how that finishes off. And let's just say the Raptors luck out and get the Nets, who lose their play-in game in the first round, and they drop, assuming they drop, because right now they are still the 6th seed. Then the Raptors would probably be favored in that game against the Nets. I think the teams you would want to avoid in the play-in are this, and this probably makes it easier to understand. You want to avoid, first and foremost, the Miami Heat. With a healthy Jimmy Butler, I think we can all agree they're a much different team, and especially if that game's in Miami, that changes everything. After that, I think you want to avoid the Chicago Bulls. Now, before you look at me funny, the Chicago Bulls have actually been playing much better basketball. I know they just got blown out by the Clippers, but overall, they've been playing much better basketball. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They beat the Lakers in LeBron's return on Sunday. Sorry, Sean. That Bulls team, I think they would have some juice playing the Raptors, especially if it's in Toronto. DeMar DeRozan, we know the ties and all that. I mean, DeMar DeRozan would love nothing more to eliminate the Raptors from playoff contention on their home floor. So that's the second team that you wouldn't want to see. And then after that, I would go with the Hawks as being the third. And then the team that you would definitely want to see in the play-in in any way, shape, or form are the Brooklyn Nets if they fall out. If the Raptors could get in a play-in situation where they got to beat a Hawks team or a Nets team, even if it's on the road, I still think the Raptors would fare well in that environment. But if you got to take on the Hawks or the Bulls, home or away, I think that would be the toughest matchup for them in the play-in.
Yeah, Luca is having nightmares about DeMar DeRozan, game winner, eliminate the Raptors from the play. What a dark timeline that is, Luca.
Hey man, I mean, the NBA script writers have gone crazy, right? So that would just be another script that they could put out there that would just shock a lot of people.
Yeah. All right. I think I finally got it. There we go.
Wow,
Yay.
dedication. You actually typed in every schedule?
Yep.
Wow.
So going to I need to do a better job of like separating it. All right, one sec, because it's kind of hard based
Well, at
off how
least you're
the
attempting to put all the schedules up there, which I did not expect you to do or anticipate. But hey, I mean, that's an A+ effort right there.
A for effort. There we go. Heck yeah. All right. I think we are good to go. Let's see. Let's try it. Okay, there we go. Yay! So let's look at it. Let's break it down. So the Miami Heat, their schedule is they got at New York, which is a big game that the Raptors going to keep their eyes up. You're a Raptors fan, you're definitely rooting for New York. Their Eastern Conference opponent that could further knock Miami down. Dallas at Detroit, at Philadelphia, at Washington. They end out with the home game against the Magic. Your Raptors at Philly, at Charlotte. So the good thing about this 5-game road trip, which I will say, you're in the same city for for essentially like 4 of these games. Like you're really traveling to 3 cities for these 5 games. So that's an underrated part of it. You're just like you're spending an extra night in Charlotte than you normally
Yeah.
would, an extra night in Boston than you normally would. And then they end the season with a home game against Milwaukee, like Luke already mentioned. For Brooklyn, their season schedule is they got Atlanta, so that's a big one. Utah, Minnesota, all at home. At Detroit, Orlando at home, and Philly, and then Atlanta. They end out with at Brooklyn, like we just mentioned, Dallas, Chicago, Washington, Philly, and then at Boston. So looking at this at face value, I think that Atlanta schedule's tough. Like
Yeah.
there's not really a game. They'll be favored for that Washington game, but like especially if Philly and Boston still playing everybody, there's not a game in that schedule where I think Atlanta's going to be favored in. So that's tough. But looking at this, I think when we talk about the Nets in Atlanta, like yeah, Luca, Brooklyn, Atlanta, who should Raptors fans be rooting for to win that game? Would you root for the Nets, who you're still, like you said, technically chasing, although it's not likely? Do you root for Brooklyn and try to hope Atlanta knocks down, or do you say, hey, look, we just gotta win games. Atlanta, go ahead, we'll catch you, and try to further knock down Brooklyn?
No, I think in this scenario, you just want to pass the team ahead of you. I think the goal is to just pass the Hawks. So I think rooting for the Nets in that scenario would be the likeliest thing or the best case scenario. Because I think looking at these schedules at face value, yeah, I agree with you, Sean. The Hawks definitely have the toughest remaining schedule. And I think our prediction is looking pretty good. Looking at all this, I think we both agree the Raptors are going to finish 8th. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they will pass the Hawks. And let me look at this Brooklyn schedule actually right now for the first time. Atlanta, Utah, Minnesota, Detroit. The Detroit and Orlando games they should win, right? But I mean, yeah, if
Even Utah, that's not like a guarantee. Like if they like
yeah,
don't play their players, then Brooklyn should win that. But like
yeah.
Utah wants to win, then I think Utah's starting to, like pack it in now. But like if Utah wants to win, Utah could beat Brooklyn. Like Utah is well coached. They
But the
got the
thing about that
players.
is, I think the Jazz have packed it in. They've lost
Yeah.
like a couple in
So
a row now, so I think the Jazz are going to be in tank mode. So I could see 3 Brooklyn wins on that schedule. So that would put the Raptors out of potentially passing them.
yeah.
Miami, Knicks, Dallas, Detroit, Philly, Washington. They probably won like 3 of those. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But I think I feel confident with my Raptors finishing 8th after looking at this. I think Atlanta definitely has the most daunting task, and they're not getting none of those games are going to be easy because I mean Washington still has a very long shot chance to get into the play-in, but they just beat the Celtics. So I don't know what the hell that team's doing. Like, have they packed it in? Are they still going for it? I have no idea, but the Hawks definitely have their work cut out for them. And they played Cleveland tonight too. So Atlanta's just in this.
A big time win.
That was a big win because they're just in this incredibly tough stretch right now for the Hawks.
And I haven't watched very many Hawks games, so like I don't know, like is Trae Young just like a passer now? Like dude took like 12 shots tonight. I haven't watched very many Hawks games recently, but I mean, kudos to Quinn. They're winning more, so maybe I need to watch them more frequently. But look at the schedule. I think I see 4 wins for Miami at base value. I think they beat Dallas. I think they beat Detroit, and then the last 2, Washington and Orlando. So that even kind of puts Miami further out of reach. Brooklyn, I see 3. Maybe if you do beat Atlanta, maybe you can touch 4. But I see 3 at face value, and then Atlanta. Whoa, that schedule's tough.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say Atlanta is the likeliest to drop. And I'm not grilling you for not doing this, but we didn't even mention the Bulls. I mean, the Bulls are only a 1.5 games back of the Raptors. I'll quickly just go over their schedule. They got the Lakers, who Sean just went on record before saying the Lakers are gonna guarantee win that game. So loss. They got the Hornets, easy game for the Bulls there. They got the Grizzlies, tough game. They got the Hawks, big game. The Bucks, big game. Dallas, and then the Pistons. So I think for the most part, the Bulls' remaining schedule is a little tough. Too tough, in my opinion, for them to leapfrog the Raptors. Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie. I think I only counted 2 wins there. Like, Charlotte in what?
Hornets, Pistons?
Yeah.
And then you could argue the Hawks.
Yeah, you could argue the Hawks. You could honestly argue Dallas because Dallas is just a wreck.
Yeah. So that's 4.
Yeah, like there's a world where they get 4. I think it's most likely they get like 3. I think that's the most likely outcome.
Okay, so let's talk about the Raptors now. So 6 games left. Let's make our official prediction to end this off. So they got 6 games remaining. Big game Friday night in Philly. Philadelphia's on a 3-game losing streak right now. Then they got the Hornets back-to-back in Charlotte. And then I don't have it in front of me right now. They got the Celtics 2 times in a row, right, in Boston. And then they have Milwaukee last game of the season at Scotiabank. How many wins do you see?
This might sound pessimistic. So I'm just like leveling the expectations. I see 3. I think they split Charlotte. Or like that's the expectation is that you just split Charlotte. Like you should, like roster to roster, you should beat Charlotte twice, honestly, pretty handily. But leveling expectations, like you said, nobody is like, who has the best road record? That's like a trivia question on Jeopardy. Like, who has the best road NBA record?
I'm curious to look that up right now as we talk. But wait, as I look that up, you said 3 wins. So that means if you have the Raptors splitting Charlotte, where are those other 2 coming? I'm curious now. Who do you have them beating?
I think they beat Philly Friday. No James Harden Friday. At least that's what it seems like. And yeah, I think they beat Philly right. I think they got a lot of momentum built up right. I think Toronto can go into Philly and get one. And then I think I had them splitting Boston for the same reason I had them splitting with Charlotte. Like Boston's the better team, but it's just so freaking hard to beat a team twice in like 3 days or 4. It's like a playoff series, right? Like except at the end of the regular season, where honestly Boston might be in the we're the 2 seed. Let's not do anything dumb and irrational. Like that's really the reasoning. And then honestly, for that you could maybe beat Milwaukee. You played Milwaukee tough, but to level out expectations, I think you win 3, and then I think honestly 3 gets you to 8. Because Atlanta's 8. You're tied with Atlanta. You just need to be 1 game better than Atlanta to make it. You can't tie with Atlanta like in terms of final 6 because Atlanta has a tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker might screw them. I just realized.
Yeah. So like if Atlanta wins 2, just win 3. If Atlanta wins 3, you gotta win 4. So
that's the tough part.
But the good thing is, like we just mentioned, there's only 1 game on Atlanta's schedule where I'm like they're the favorite. Yeah. Maybe 2 because again Dallas is just a wreck. But like there's only 1 game left for Atlanta. Where I'm like they'll win. and that's a tough thing for the Hawks, but a good thing for if you're a Raptors fan.
So yeah, very off track here. The team with the best road record, it appears to be the Celtics are 11 games over 500 on the road. They're 24-15. Or sorry, that's 9. My bad.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so my math's bad. The Bucks have the best road record at 24-14. Wow,
Go
that's
figure.
crazy.
The best team in the NBA has the best road record.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
And the crazy part is, okay, so the East actually has a couple of teams over 500.
Philly good on the road too?
Sorry?
Is Philly good on the road too? Yeah, they're good on the road.
Yeah, the East have a lot of teams actually that are good on the road. The West is insane. So get ready for this. The Kings have the best road record in the West at 22-14, and then only 2 other teams in the West have an above 500 road record. The 19-18 Nuggets on the road, which is 1 game over, and then the 19-18 Clippers, which is of course just 1 game over. So the West, I guess that narrative is true for the West of them just all Western Conference teams stinking on the road, with the exception of the Kings. That's insane.
Like, dude, you have 3 teams. You have like equal teams with like under 10 road wins and over 30. Like you have 3 home teams. I mean, 3 teams with over 30 home wins and 3 teams with less than 10 road wins.
That's bad.
And go figure that one of the teams with 30 home wins have less than 10 road wins. And that's the Warriors.
Yeah, that's insane. Wow.
Like that's crazy. Like you look at the league, like you got teams that are like mid or like really bad with borderline of like 500 home records. Like the Pacers are 19-18 at home, but 14-25 on the road. Like
yeah,
so
that's insane. Yeah, so the Bucks have the best road record. So okay, here's my prediction. I think okay, so yeah, I see them splitting with the Hornets. That's 1. You bring up a good point because like back to backs, it's tough to win 2 because it's like a playoff series, right? Teams make adjustments, and that's why maybe they get 1 against Boston, but Boston I just think have the Raptors number. So I'm actually gonna say they beat the Hornets once for sure. They beat the Bucks last game of the season only because I think at that point Milwaukee's gonna have everything wrapped up. They're gonna take it easy, so that's gonna go well for the Raptors. That's 2. And then I'm going to say the third one is going to come either this Friday or they'll end up sweeping the Hornets. I actually don't see them getting a win against the Celtics, for as bad as that sounds.
That's possible. That makes some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. Like, yeah, like if you told me Toronto like swept Charlotte and then lost both to Boston, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, like I was just trying to like level the expectations because like I feel like there's an emotional high and the overreactions of social media. Oh, the Raptors are about to go 5-1. Like no, like that is not happening.
No, yeah, there's no way. Not with this schedule. And I guess yeah, so that's the overreaction. And then the sky is falling again. This team is terrible. Is if the Raptors somehow lose both to the Hornets, like what the Mavs did, then it's like the fan base will turn on this team quickly again. That's why, like, right now in this position, I'm not going to overly react to what's going on. Like, they're 500, 3-game winning streak. They just beat Miami, which is great. But like I said at the top of the show, their truest test is still to come. These next 6 games, there's going to be a lot at stake in every single one of these. And there's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a fun time for sure.
Yeah. All right. I want to end things off with, because I haven't been able to get your opinion on this. I just recorded a video that got posted yesterday at the time I was recording on some really, really weird coaching rumors in regards of that the Raptors, should he become available, and should the Raptors, I think the wording was, should the Raptors be interested, Ime Udoka could be a potential option for the Raptors to be their head coach next season. That's because there was an article from Shams around the trade deadline that, hey, the Raptors and Nick Nurse might, look to move on after the season. He only has 1 year left on his deal at around $8 million, which, really quick side note, I think it's really, maybe it's not, I guess it's not weird. It's just very rare that you see NBA coaches' salary, I don't know what the word is, exposed or like stated. There we go. Like because college is a lot more frequent. Like for example, Texas just uh hired, or I guess what would the word be, like extended, I guess their interim head coach and gave them promoted. There we go, promoted them to head coach, and they disclosed the amount of money it was. You don't really see that from the NBA side of things. I think that's a really weird note that in the article they mentioned this for $8 million. But Luca, Emi Udoka, would you be interested if the Raptors and Nick Nurse somehow parted ways?
First and foremost, I don't think they will. I agreed with your take earlier. I think it was in a previous show that you said, yeah, Nick Nurse definitely gets one more year. I think they're going to honor that final year. I don't see a world, even if the things like end up hitting the fan and the most disastrous thing you can think of happens from here on out, I still think Nick Nurse survives another year. And with the whole Ime Udoka situation, what's interesting that a lot of people don't realize is back in 2018, he was actually one of the finalists for the head coaching position with the Toronto Raptors. Of course, Nick Nurse beat him out then. So there is a connect. There's a connection there. Raptors obviously familiar with him. And Udoka, I know there's a lot of the off the court stuff that taints his name, but we got to give this guy his flowers for the on the court stuff. Took the Celtics to the NBA Finals in his first season, had some really good assistant coaching stints with some other teams. Raptors obviously had interest in him a couple years ago. So if the whole Nick Nurse thing fails and
Yep.
the Raptors get rid of him either this season or next season when his contract is up, I think Ime Udoka, if he's still available, that's a big if because I think he won't be if it doesn't happen this summer. I think a team will hire him for next season, but he would probably be the next coach in line post Nick Nurse. So
Yeah.
if the Raptors somehow, to answer your question, if the Raptors somehow fire Nick Nurse after this season, I can see them getting Ime Udoka. But I just don't think that reality exists. I think they ride it out another year with Nick Nurse. And then next season, if they do get rid of Nick Nurse, at that point, Udoka is going to have a coaching job. I'd be shocked if he didn't. And then I don't know who the Raptors would get at that point.
Yeah, you kind of stole the words right out of my mouth there, Luca. Because basically all I was gonna say was, if you're gonna fire Nick, which again I have stated on the show, I disagree with that. I think it would be kind of dramatic to do that after one bad year where he just took a team and surpassed all the expectations, and only a couple years removed from super surpass the expectations post Kawhi, because there's a lot of uncertainty around that team, and he took them from like one game away from the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be a massive mistake, and you don't replace top five head coaches don't grow on trees, right? So if you do that, you have to have a plan in mind, and that's why I think it's interesting. So like if you're going to do it, you have to go get Emi Udoka.
Yeah.
Kind of to go on to your point, like I'm not firing Nick Nurse to get Billy Joel or like Tommy Dreamer off the sidewalk to come. No, I'm not getting a random dude. I'm going to get the cream of the crop, Emi Udoka. Like you said, the off the court stuff is a whole nother conversation. But as a coach in like X's and O's and building out staff, because he has two assistants that are doing a hell of a job right now in their own right. Joe Mazzulla in
Yeah.
Boston, head coach. Will Hardy, one of my favorite head coaches right now, doing a heck of a job in Utah. Like Ime Udoka is the top 8 head coach when he's actually coaching. He did a phenomenal job last season on both sides of the ball. And you can maybe even argue, Luca. Now, who knows if this was more him or Will Hardy, but you could argue that Ime Udoka is a better offensive coach than Nick Nurse. So
Yeah,
from
for sure.
from an offensive standpoint, and I've really been like saying a lot on the channel is whenever I watch the Raptors, it's just like everything is tough. You could make an argument, hey, you'd upgrade offensively at least by getting Udoka, and there's not much of a step back defensively either. So you could definitely entertain it, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I'd be shocked, put it that way. I'd be shocked if the Raptors parted way with Nick Nurse after the season, after, let's just say, they're not going to miss the play-in, losing in the first round or getting eliminated in the play-in, I should say. I'd be shocked if the Raptors parted way with Nick Nurse. But yeah, if you are going to make that big, bold of a move, you definitely got to replace Nick Nurse with Udoka. There's no other replacement if that were to be the case. But I think we both see a world where, yeah, no, Nick Nurse will get that extra year and, Next year, though, he could very well be on the hot seat if the Raptors find themselves in this same position.
Yeah. Like, in this kind of, to put a wrap on that thing, if the Raptors do it, and as long as they replace it with Emmy, I won't be mad at it. I
Yeah.
still honestly maybe even disagree with it, but I'll be like, okay, like, cool. You're not replacing them with the 25th best head coach. You replace him with a bona fide top 10 head coach. So that's my piece
And
there.
then you would have the whole, Jaylen Brown to Raptors agenda would just grow stronger if the Raptors had Ime
I
Udoka.
thought Jalen like hated Udoka. Was that not a thing?
Yeah, that might have been. I'm just playing off the whole thing I've been seeing online of
Oh,
Raptors fans thinking that JB could come to Toronto. But
oh,
yeah,
JB's out of there though. He's out.
yeah, I think so too. It's gonna be
Whether I
interesting
don't,
where he'll go.
yeah, I don't know where he is like contract wise, but like either
Wait,
way,
so is he a free agent this summer, unrestricted?
no, I don't think it's this year.
Oh,
It
okay.
might be
So
next year, but like either way, hold on, let me say. Either way, he's out. Whether it's this year, next year. Hey, he's like overplaying his contract too. This contract's a bargain. Hold on. So he's next year is the last year of his deal, and he'll only be making $28 million. That's super team friendly for a player
wow,
of his caliber.
yeah.
Like,
No,
yeah.
he's gonna get the bag. He could definitely get the number one player's bag somewhere else.
All right. I know I said last name, but I'm gonna entertain the Jaylen Brown to Toronto rumors real quick. This summer, would you do dang near Pascal Siakam for Jaylen Brown? Straight up.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would.
No,
I know
does
Raptors
Boston do
fan.
it?
I know Raptors fans would say Siakam clears JB. Like we all agree, Tatum, Siakam for sure. But then Raptors would
Right.
say that Siakam clears JB. I'd
Does
beg
he
to
though?
differ
Yeah, I was
because
gonna say,
JB.
does he?
No, because JB to me, I would argue he's a better clutch performer than Tatum, and JB has potential to be the number one guy. I just think he's kind of overshadowed with that because he's got Tatum. But you put JB on a team and you give him the keys to the car, I think he can be absolutely deadly. So I to answer your question, I would do that for sure. Could you imagine JB with Barnes? Like, oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
Dude, you're with if you had a team with your wings, oh man, Jaylen Brown, OG, Scottie,
Yeah, that's all you
and
need.
Jakob.
That's a good 4 out of 5, and then you don't bring back Fred and get like a cheaper guard.
That's nasty. Oh man. Now my only backdraw to that is I don't know how Boston feels about a Tatum Siakam fit, but you could go Siakam small ball five. You could. They already do it now.
Boston wouldn't do that. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think Stevens would do that at all.
And
That would-
I think the bigger thing with the Jalen trade is
I mean,
he
they
won't.
sorry to interrupt you. They didn't even want to trade him apparently for KD. They're not going to trade JV for Siakam.
True, but expiring contract. And
Yeah,
like if Jalen's like, screw you, I'm out, you gotta get something.
yeah, yeah.
So
I know that could if let's just say, and we're going super off track here. Well, not really because we're tying it to the Raptors potentially getting JB. But let's just say the Celtics have a huge shortcoming in the playoffs. I think that would be a second round exit. That'd be disappointing, right? Or even somehow first, but let's say second. We'll be
Raptors
reasonable here.
upset in the first round.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be cracks, and I think a JB trade potentially could happen this summer if all goes wrong for the Celtics and they don't get out of the second round. Even if they like get disappointed in the conference finals, for
Like
them
swept in the conference finals. Something
exactly,
like that.
yeah, for
Yeah.
them they got to make it back to the finals for to shut up those narratives. I think.
Yeah. I don't know. And again, we're kind of going a little off the wire here, kind of more talking about basketball in general. The Jaylen Brown thing is why I think he's gone. It's just so weird because I've never seen a player like in the midst of a crazy good season. Like he's having career highs in a lot of statistical categories. His team is winning games. So like there's only two teams that have won over 50 games. I think it's them in Boston. I think they've won 50. I mean them in Milwaukee, excuse me. Like they're one of the title favorites, and how like openly like how open he's been about how much he like basically hates the fan base and hates Boston and the
Yeah.
weird dynamic with him and Tatum. Even he's opened up about with the KD stuff in the summer. He's gone. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's in Boston's best interest to do something this summer.
I could see a world where he's gone. Yeah. And very quickly, another guy I could see being gone soon is Dame, right? Same type of situation.
I don't buy it. I don't buy that one. I don't
No.
buy that
That's
one.
another guy who I think would make for a great Raptor. I always envisioned that, like even before the Kawhi Leonard trade went down. Obviously, I love that the Raptors got Kawhi Leonard, but before that whole thing went down, I was so pro like trying to get Damian Lillard. I just always thought he would make a good fit here in Toronto.
You want it to be what, Damon and DeMar?
Yeah, before Kawhi, the superstar that I wanted to see here was Dame.
Yeah. I don't know. The Dame thing, I feel like we're just like going around in a circle and we're just doing like nothing's gonna happen. Like I don't know. I don't see it, but we're definitely getting off the rails. So Raptors Nation, comment down below. Basically, what we're getting at is a crazy NBA where anything can happen and things change in a span of like 15 minutes in this world we're living in. But comment down below. What is your record prediction for the Raptors over this last 6 games? And what do you think is this team ceiling? Like, could they do the improbable, not impossible, but the improbable and beat like a Boston in the first round? And as always, subscribe right here to the Raptors Nation YouTube channel. Ring that post notification bell as well. Sean Davis and Luca Rosano, stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.